What's up, y'all? I hope all is well. So, this will be my second episode to my Lightism Awareness series, and today we'll be discussing this article written in the Boise Times, and it is about a Boise woman that says Black community leaders excluded her for being too light-skinned. And I thought this would be a fascinating discussion to have because the purpose of the Lightism Awareness series is to draw attention to the experiences of light-skinned women of African descent, whether they be fully Black, biracial, multiracial, multi-generationally mixed, multi-ethnic. And the goal is just to bring awareness and shed some light on our experiences in relation to colorism and featureism and the term that I'm coining that is called lightism. The definition of lightism is animosity, resentment, ostracization, and demonization towards Black people of a lighter skin hue or mixed heritage. Usually involves the justification and normalization of verbal, physical, or mental abuse of Black people within said group. Gaslighting and discrediting the lived experiences of them is also considered lightism. Lightism can only be perpetuated interracially. First, I'm going to show you guys a quick video, then I'm going to read the article and then give my commentary.
We came to Boise. We wanted something different coming from San Diego. We wanted a simpler kind of life, so to speak. An environment that was safe and clean and friendly. And that's what we found. In San Diego, my clientele is very diverse, and I wanted to reach out here to all communities, including my community, the African American community, and let them know I'm here. I take care of hair. I'm really good at it. In high school, there was a lot of discrimination against me because of my fair skin. I got beat up a lot. And, that was years ago, and I never would expect that I would receive that now. I thought the world had evolved a bit, knowing that we come in all shapes, all shades. So I didn't think that would be an issue. But apparently it was. I'm going to continue my business the way that I've always done my business, word of mouth, advertising. You find me. The incident itself, it made me very sad and it hurt deeply into my heart. But I won't let it stop me from doing what I do and questioning who I am as a Black woman. No. So.
Boise woman says Black community leader excluded her for being too light-skinned. And this article was written by Nicole Blanchard, who is a white woman. A Boise newcomer hoped to connect with the local Black community when she moved to Idaho from San Diego. But instead of finding a welcoming environment, she said she was alienated over her skin tone. Natasha Reed joined the Black in Boise, a Facebook group meant to connect Black people in the Treasure Valley, in March, shortly after arriving in Boise with her fiance. After a few months in the area, she decided to post about her salon business in the hopes of attracting more clients. Reed said she was quickly removed from the group by a moderator who questioned her racial identity and refused Reed's attempt to provide proof that she was Black. The moderator, who is also the founder of Boise's African American Chamber of Commerce, said she made a mistake in questioning Reed, but was motivated by a fierce protection of her community. For Reed, though, it felt like an outs from that same community. Reed said that within minutes of sharing a post about her salon in the Black in Boise group on June 28th, she received a message from one of the group's moderators, Catherine Jones, telling her that her post had been removed. "Hey," Jones wrote, "you've been removed from the Black in Boise group as it is a space for Black folks only. Have a great day." Reed said she was immediately taken back. "I'm black," she responded. Jones replied, telling Reed that several people had checked her business website and there are only white women. "There is no evidence on your profile as well," Jones wrote. She later told the Idaho Statesman in a phone interview that another group member was concerned about Reed's identity after viewing her business website, prompting Reed's removal. She was adamant that she was a black person, Jones told the Statesman. "Because she is fairly light-skinned, it all kind of ran together." Reed, who said she prides herself on being able to do all kinds of hair, said she wanted a chance to show Jones who she is. She shared the username of her personal Instagram account, offered to become Facebook friends, and asked Jones what proof she felt she needed. "I felt like I was scrambling trying to prove who I am," Reed told the Statesman. "I was even like, should I take a screenshot of my Ancestry.com family tree to send it to her? All these thoughts were going through my head as far as how do I prove it to her." Facebook messages shows Jones declined Reed's offer for proof. Reed said she was shaken up and upset following her conversation with Jones. She said it reminded her of incidents in her teen years in Virginia when she was bullied and beaten up for having a lighter skin tone. The next day, she said she decided to reach out to the African American Chamber of Commerce in hopes of connecting with other black business owners around Boise. She received an email in response telling her that the chamber does not take members, only sponsors. That email was also sent by the chamber's founder and CEO, Catherine Jones, the same Facebook group moderator that she spoke with the night before. Reed said she was surprised to learn that Jones is a major figure in Boise's black community. She said she talked to her sister, Zelda Wade, and a hairstylist friend from California, Amanda J., to share her hurt and frustration. Both women wrote Facebook messages to Jones, confirming Reed's race and chastising Jones for questioning Reed. Jones told the Statesman that she felt harassed by the messages. She contacted Reed and said that she would involve police if the situation escalated. Jones also said that the chamber's response had nothing to do with her previous interaction with Reed. "No one is a member of the chamber," she said. "We don't have enough black business ownership to support a chamber membership. I didn't lie to her. I wasn't trying to exclude her." But Reed saw it differently. She said she felt two of the most promising avenues for connecting with the black community in Boise had been cut off by Jones. She reached out to the Washington, D.C.-based National Black Chamber of Commerce to see if Jones had violated any chamber rules. Charles DeBow, the vice president of the program with the National Chamber, told Reed that the local chambers are not overseen by national ones. While DeBow had no recourse for Reed when it came to Boise's African American Chamber of Commerce, he told the Statesman that he told Reed she should not allow anyone else to place a lens or a filter on what she's doing. DeBow also said he understood Jones's dilemma. He said it's not unusual for an assessment or observation to be made by minority organizations to ensure participants are part of their community. I definitely agree that black people and people of color should be allowed to use some type of screening process in situations like this to make sure said person is actually a part of their group so that we don't get Rachel Dolezal again. So I'm not anti-black exclusivity, but my issue is that a lot of lightest people use gatekeeping and black exclusivity as an excuse to exclude the type of black people, specifically MLS women, because you don't see MLS men really being treated like this. When you hear people that want to quote unquote gatekeep, they're usually talking about gatekeeping against MLS women, and usually their only standard is having the look that they like. Reed was not being cagey about her identity. She was willing to provide proof that she was black. This Catherine Jones woman simply did not want Reed in the group based on how she looked. She didn't care that she's actually biracial and is a part of the black community. So that's my issue with these types of people. But let's continue. On June 29th, the day after their initial conversation, Jones sent an apology to Reed via Facebook Messenger. "I owe you an apology," Jones wrote, offering to reinstate Reed back in the Black in Boise group. "It was not my intention to make anyone feel excluded, and I take ownership for my part in that. Colorism is an issue, and I definitely need to be more aware of it in our community." Half an hour after Jones sent that message, she also sent Reed a screenshot of an apology she posted to the group. She had tagged Reed in the post. "I never want us to be better. I want us to be better and do better. I removed Natasha Reed from the group because her profile did not reflect what I thought a black person should look like." So she confirms for us verbatim that her pathology is exactly as I said it was. Jones wrote, "I want us to be aware of our own biases while challenging the narrative of what blackness means/is. I love my community and I will protect it fiercely," Jones continued. "I'm not sure if Reed will accept my apology, but hopefully she will be willing to have a conversation with me one day." Reed responded privately, telling Jones she appreciated the words and had spent the night upset and reliving discrimination she dealt with as a child. Reed also responded on the public post, thanking Jones. And this is exactly why I created this series, because MLS women are constantly being told that these types of experiences are in our head and we're just full of ourselves and we think everybody is jealous of us and we're just paranoid. But it's like we be having these experiences from childhood to adulthood, yet everybody gaslights us and tell us what we're experiencing is not what we're experiencing. These types of experiences really stick with you, and you think that once you get older, you're not going to have to deal with this type of bullshit anymore, but we still do. Jones told the Statesman that she felt the issue was settled then. "I will agree that I made a mistake in judging just the website, so I apologize to her in the sincerest way that I could," Jones said. "I thought it was left at that." To Reed, the apology was little too late. She said she still feels alienated from the black community in Boise and has had no follow-ups from Jones, despite Jones expressing her desire to have a conversation one day. Reed said she's not worried about the impact on her business, but she said the experience was discouraging from a personal standpoint. She came to Idaho, which is nearly 90% white, anticipating that she might face discrimination, she said, but she didn't think it would come from other people of color. "It was a total dampener on me wanting to get into the black community," she said. "Walking in the grocery store, if I see other African Americans, I'm like, do they know that I'm the one that got booted from the group? It's a scarlet letter." She said she liked to see leaders like Jones be more accepting and follow through by bridging rifts in the community. "It hurts me more than anything," Reed said. So this is a very interesting as well as obvious case of lightism. So I was able to do a little bit of research on both women, and I found it interesting that the fact that Reed is biracial was almost never mentioned in this article. And I find that interesting because I believe that that is an aspect of her identity that played a role in this situation. I know I describe lightism as usually something connected to just skin tone, but there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of intersections within that term. And I believe that Reed being biracial is another catalyst to this lightism that she's experiencing. Not only her phenotype, but also her heritage as well. So not only is Reed light-skinned, she's also biracial and has a racially ambiguous phenotype. And she has that ambiguous phenotype because she's biracial. So I think it's important to point that out in the article to explain that, and it makes a little bit more sense. If Reed was a biracial woman who had a black phenotype but was still light skinned, I don't know if she would have even had the same experience. So I do think her being biracial and racially ambiguous plays a lot into this. And that's something that's specific to her, because not all biracial people are racially ambiguous. I'm assuming she identifies as just black, because that's how she referred to herself in the video. And in the beginning of the video, I pointed out that this article was written by a white woman. And the reason why I did that is because I just wonder how it would have been written differently if it had been written by an MLS woman, or specifically a biracial woman. We would have known the importance in pointing that out, because people like to perpetuate the idea that Black people don't discriminate against biracial people, and that's not true. And so when stuff like this happens, it should be documented properly. And white people have a history of blackwashing the biracial experience in documentation to where it's kind of been erased throughout history. And people will say, oh, well, Reed is blackwashing herself by identifying as black when she's biracial. And I completely disagree with that stance, because you can be biracial and not be black. So it doesn't confuse me when biracial people identify as black. All they have to do is say, oh, I have a black father and a white mother, or I'm this, I'm that, but I identify socially as a black. That's all she had to do. It's really not that serious. Frederick Douglass identified as black, and 300 years later, we still know he's biracial. During the discussion between Jones and Reed, when Reed was trying to prove her identity, Jones says, either you're black or you're not. And that gave me an indication that she was rejecting her on the basis of her being biracial, because clearly if Reed was willing to provide evidence of her blackness, she mentioned the fact that she's biracial. And so I believe Jones probably followed that up by saying, oh, well, you're black or you're not. And this white woman who wrote the article, she left that out. You know, it might not be malicious, but she might have left that out because she didn't see the significance of it. And either way, even if I'm reaching with that assessment, they removed her from the group before even asking her about her race. So they had decided how they felt about her before even speaking to her. And this is something that us as MLS women deal with a lot. There are a lot of people who just look at us and make assumptions about us, or automatically decide how they feel about us without even knowing us, without even speaking to us first. And I really feel like that's what this woman experienced. And it's just really unfortunate that grown-ass women are still having to deal with this. And this situation just really irked me, honestly, because we're constantly having to deal with people's preconceived notions or ignorance about us. Like, shorty Catherine Jones could have saved herself a whole headache had she simply spoken to Natasha before removing her, but she didn't, and that's why she had people emailing her. But then shorty want to turn around trying to play victim. Like, this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. You were right for being chastised because you made a silly mistake. You could have just asked Natasha what her race is, or whatever questions you had, if that's what you needed to do. But that's not what you did. You looked at her website and made an assumption. And that's the thing. When they get called out for their lightism, they love to play victim or act like they don't know what we're talking about. Meanwhile, we be dealing with this situation this type of treatment from other black girls and women from the time that we're little girls. So how is everybody lying? You making assumptions about us in elementary school. You making assumptions about us in college. You making assumptions about us in the workplace, but yet we're paranoid for feeling like and being worried about people rejecting us or having these preconceived notions about us based on the way we present phenotypically or our heritage. Like, clearly we have reasons to feel like that because we see so many patterns of this, not only online but in real life too. So it needs to be documented, and for too long we've just stayed quiet and not said anything. And that's why a lot of people think that this stuff doesn't happen, because we don't really talk about it. Like, I'm just tired of the gaslighting and manipulation tactics. If you're saying that you removed her from the site because you only see white women on her website, why didn't you simply have a conversation with her? Because clearly she's not a white woman. So why didn't you just ask her what she is instead of assuming? Oh, because you didn't want her there to begin with. Like, What I think happened is that somebody over Katherine Johnson was made aware of the situation and probably said something to her about it, complained about it, because it's not a good look for, you know, the chamber or even the Black and Boise group. So I believe that that's probably why she apologized, because I don't think she wouldn't have apologized. She wouldn't have. If she wasn't made to apologize, she wouldn't have, because she doesn't actually feel this way. And if she didn't, she wouldn't have been so adamant about not even allowing Natasha Reid to educate her on her heritage. She didn't care. She didn't care. She just didn't want her in the group. But because she was probably called out for it to save face, then she apologized. And I'm also not convinced that her response to Natasha Reid about the African American Chamber of Commerce had nothing to do with the prior incident regarding the Facebook group. And you can see that gleamingly obvious through that quote-unquote apology she gave to Natasha, talking about, oh, well, it was only white women on her site and she's very light-skinned, so it all kind of ran together. Like, that's extremely ignorant, because Natasha, in my opinion, is not white passing. She's not white. She's clearly a person of color. Now, like I said, she is racially ambiguous, and what I mean by that is, like, she could be like Puerto Rican. She could be like, you don't know where she could be from, but she doesn't look like a white woman. So I can see them. I could have understood if they just approached her and were like, hey, you know, do you mind us asking, you know, where you're from or whatever. If you want to have a screening process for a Black group to make sure that this person is really a part of the culture, then there's respectful ways that you can go about that and not make her feel uncomfortable or anything like that. But like she said in her response, based on the way Natasha looked, specifically her light skin, and this is why I focus specifically on light skin on my channel, because I know that there are dark skin mixed people, there are brown skin mixed people, there are mixed people who look all different types of ways, there are Black people that look all types of ways, there are fully Black people that look biracial. You know, there are people who look all different types of ways. But what I find is that, at least within the Black community, people respond very differently to light skin on a Black body, or let me say to light skin on a mixed or a biracial body, as opposed to brown skin or dark skin. Now, I'm not saying that dark skin and brown skin mixed people don't go through things and don't get discriminated against and don't have people judging them. I'm not saying that at all, because actually I know that that's true, and I've heard them talk about their experiences as well. But I just find that there's a whole lot more of hostility and rejection towards lighter people and people that look more ambiguous. Because if you really think about it from a facial feature standpoint, if you look at somebody like Amara La Negra, like, to me, she does not have Black features. She does not have the face of a Black African woman. But because she's clearly mixed, by the way, she's obviously mixed. She's a dark-skinned mixed woman. But because she's dark-skinned, she's looked at and embraced differently in the Black community as opposed to somebody like Natasha. Honestly, if you look at Natasha and Amara, they don't have two different facial features. They really don't. They have mixed facial features. But because Amara is dark-skinned and Natasha is light skinned, they're going to be perceived differently, positively and negatively within the Black community. And there's even a range of experiences amongst light skinned people. Like, what is going on with Natasha, I don't think would ever happen to a light skinned person who looks like me, even though people actually think I'm biracial pretty often. But I'm not racially ambiguous. I'm obviously Black. People just usually think I'm mixed, and that's something too. People don't ever think I'm like a purely 100% African Black person. They usually think I'm mixed with something, but they can tell that I'm Black. Natasha, you can't really tell what she is. She could be Asian, she could be South American, like she could be a whole bunch of different races. And I know South American and Asian are not races. I'm just giving you an idea that you can't place her. I'm more of an ethnically ambiguous Black person. So you can obviously tell that I'm Black, but you can't tell where I'm from. People will put light skin or mixed stereotypes on me, or think that I think I'm better, or, you know, they'll have preconceived notions about me based on being light skinned. But I've never been rejected based on not being Black. Nobody's ever said, oh, you're not Black, you're white. You know, I don't get those types of comments. But I do know and have in my family more racially ambiguous light skinned people that are Black. And based on the way that they look, people do call them white, or they don't think that they're Black. They can't tell that they're Black. They don't know where they're from. So, and that's just based on their phenotype. So it's really important to talk about the different experiences and the diversity amongst MLS people and how that impacts the way we experience life. And what's crazy about it is that based on the way MLS people look, even the brown skin and the dark skin ones, people think that we have an easier time in life, or that everybody just walks around catering to us and just thinks we're so attractive. And that's not how it is. Like, we go through shit too based on the way we look. We have negative experiences and people treat us bad and discriminate against us too. And people think that, specifically black people think that within the black community, we're on a pedestal and we're just praised and it's just all, happy days for us. And it's not necessarily like that. Like, we face hardships and face discrimination and abuse based on the way we look also. It's not just unambiguous black people that experience that from other black people and the world. But I will say, and I just have to be honest, I've experienced more issues from other black people than non-black people, and other light-skinned people say that too. So I don't think that it's fair that we're always told we need to ignore this. Like, if a white woman had done the exact same thing that Catherine Jones did, there would have been an uproar. But because Catherine Jones is a black woman, people will not see this situation as something important. And the main reason why I really got inspired to start talking about these types of topics, and what really makes me passionate about it, is because I feel like us MLS women get the brunt of this abuse and have these negative experiences. I'm not saying that MLS men don't go through stuff and that they don't get picked on also. I'm not saying that at all, because people are actually way more overt towards them about lightism towards the men, as we're towards the women. It's more covert, but it's more aggressive. That's the difference. I think the women, we get came for way more aggressively, and people have way more smoke and hatred towards us than the men. And that's because of misogynoir, desirability politics, and the colorism hierarchy that black men, specifically the ones that are darker than a paper bag, have implemented within the black community. And us light-skinned women, we need to start defending ourselves and stop going along with the status quo, because it really doesn't benefit us as much as we think. Because a lot of us stay silent because we think that we're the preference, or we're getting favored, or that black men desire us, and they may have a fetish for us, but we're still getting the negative treatment that black women globally are getting. We're still experiencing that. So who cares if the most oppressed group of people on the planet put you on a so-called pedestal? Like, who cares? Or they just blame darker and browner black women for how they're treating us, and they don't look at the bigger picture that a lot of that treatment, I would say 75% of it, stems from the environment and the tone that black men have set within the culture. The black women that have lightest sentiments tend to be black male identified, and that's where their animosity towards light-skinned women comes from. Because notice how a lot of these women who promote themselves to be black gatekeepers, quote unquote, they're usually dark skin or brown skin. They're usually male identified, and they usually would be in a relationship with a light-skinned man, but they have all the smoke for light-skinned women. That's usually the pathology of a lot of women that have lighted sentiments. And I'm not trying to make generalizations, but I see this all too often for this to not be a thing. Like, you do not see any of these so-called black gatekeepers that are so pressed about mixed and biracial women being in black spaces and or identifying as black. When do you see these people who are always complaining about Cardi B and other biracial women in the entertainment industry, when do you see them complaining about Drake? When do you see them complaining about Joyner Lucas? When do you see them complaining about Lenny Kravitz? When do you see them complaining about Logic? When do you see them complaining about any of these biracial men that are in black spaces and that are considered black icons, but they have all the smoke for light-skinned and biracial women? And that's my issue, and why I'm saying a lot of this is rooted in misogynoir and connected to desirability politics and black women buying way too much into what black men say. If you're so invested in what black men's preferences are, and the preference isn't you, but they're your preference, of course you're gonna be having animosity towards the preferences. And I'm not letting these women off the hook. I'm not saying that it's all right, but I understand what's going on up in their noodle. I understand their psychology, and it just kind of is what it is. And this situation with Natasha Reid is a perfect example as to why MLS people need our own spaces. Number one, so that we're not always trying to fit in where we're not wanted, because clearly Natasha Reid was not wanted in that group, but she has really no other community to go to. Like, yeah, she's biracial, and in my opinion, she's a part of the white community, and she could go and try to be a part of the, you know, hang out with the white community, but she might have to face abuses. But then, you know, she goes to the black side and tries to be in that community, and she's facing abuses and discrimination there too. So if she had a community of people that looked like her, she wouldn't feel like she had to choose or pick one, you know, and risk that. Or even if she was to try to be in the African American Chamber of Commerce, because I think that we have a right to be there too, and something like this happened, if we had our own spaces and we advocated for each other, she could have come talk to another MLS person instead of having to go to the Idaho spokesman and have a white woman write this article for her. She could have had another MLS woman advocating for her and getting her story out there, because we do face stuff and we do have a very specific experience, and we should advocate for each other. Also, if we had more spaces to discuss our experiences and what we go through, we would also feel more confident and not doubt ourselves. I think a lot of MLS women, when we have certain social experiences with other women, we don't really know what to make of it. We don't know how to process it. We think it's in our head, especially if we have nobody to talk to or there's nobody that we can relate to. And so I think it's important that we have like that support and that option as a community there for each other, because clearly we need it. And what I mean by that when I say that is networks and online spaces. So, for example, I started off doing commentary on Instagram, on my Instagram story. And so I started finding like some MLS like type spaces on Instagram. So I found like a page called Mixed Chicks. And I'm going to link all these pages in the description box below. But yeah, so one page called like, I think it's called Mixed Chicks. You know, they post like, you know, different types of mixed people. And that's a great way to educate yourself on the diversity of mixed people, because they post mixed people who are not just mixed with black. They post mixed people that are mixed with anything. And I always be trying to remind people, like, there are mixed people who have nothing to do with blackness. Like, they're just mixed with multiple different cultures or ethnicities or races. It's not about being black. Like, so if a biracial person is black and white and they're identifying with their blackness, that's why. Biracial is a fluid identity. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. But get in the comment section. Tell me your thoughts on the article, the situation involving Natasha Reid and Katherine Johnson. Do you feel like it was a case of lightism, or do you think I'm reaching and it was just a misunderstanding and they had a right to question Natasha and handle her the way they did? LMK, what you think? Peace.